What's more effective in supplying an audience with a good amount of goosebumps than some kind of creepy soundtrack? Well, terrifying sounds. But for this sake of integrity, let's say creepy sound effects. Or not even effects. Just something as normal as an old creaky house might lack the sophistication of top-notch sound design, but hey, if it works in creating an atmosphere, then any visual could. And because I have this channel on standby, this is going to be the top 10 creepiest film sounds. Konami's Silent Hill is a cavalcade of everything you expect to hear in a ghost town. And a literal ghost town. It's the kind of place that would give you the willies with creatures that would actually cut off your willy. Of course, Hollywood's ritual of turning something great into a lackluster effort still brought us the benefits of the music and sound, including that cue to say the worst is about to get worser, the siren. Even though it's there to warn us of danger, but it's etched in your brain to make you feel uneasy. I mean, that's eventually how Siren Head became a thing. Well, for now. After tackling ghosts and aliens, Samalan went for the good old-fashioned monster movie. As humans, we're of course scared of the things we know and more scared of the things we don't know. That's what the early 19th century Americans thought. Despite after being enlightened and industrialized, there was still great fear that there were zoological beasts that could tear you a new asshole, with no idea who's going to discover who first. The sound of their mating call, or whatever it is, makes you completely understand why these villagers would go by the philosophy of, let sleeping dogs lie, or whatever it is lie. I love posters that make you feel awkward looking at them. Ju-on's The Grudge. The film has become one of the most popular paranormal stories from Japan. And like Western paranormal fiction, there's a catch. Of course, this case a curse that surrounds a house, haunted by Keiko Seki. The Japanese lady spook, along with this chick, ended the attempts to create an original ghost. Her iconic death rattle, that burping sound, is the last thing many victims hear before their demise. It's nasty and it doesn't help much that it's actually quite rude, but it's still a musical interpretation of an awful death. Nothing can beat the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that has the name Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but Invasion of the Body Snatchers comes close. It's an engrossing tale about an alien species that simulates and recycles human bodies to create a new host, to continue on, and Earth happens to be a part of their endless campaign. It's a better strategy than going in guns blazing. It worked in the 50s and 70s, and despite looking and sounding like us, the only difference is that they emit a wailing high-pitched scream that alerts others. But I'm sure there's a certain amount of people who come close to wailing that kind of sound. You know the ones I'm talking about. The Blair Witch Project arguably wasn't the first found footage film, but it was the first found footage film that made people stay away from Burkittsville woods. It's about three inspiring film students who are doomed to become statistics in the horrific witches legend. Their camera footage is the only thing left to tell the tale, but it doesn't show who or what's hunting them. And we do hear things, and a lot of it sounds like wood hitting against wood, maybe because that's what it is. It's a simple sound, but it's eerie as hell. We never know what it is. The original plan from the director was to have a giant version of those stick figures they found before chasing them. Possibly this could have been the footsteps of it, but of course it's best we never know. The Babadook. A peculiar name that deserves to go to this gentleman of your nightmares. This 2014 film, despite not being that famous, the monster has a bit of a cult following. And rightfully so. It looks metal as hell, as though it comes from the silent era. It's black and white, has vintage clothes, black eye makeup around the eyes, and has a weird blur to it. It's not the kind of thing you would ever want to see waking up at 3 a.m. It's similar to a Keiko that has kind of a death rattle, or, without going too deep, grief rattle. That is just its voice. Now if only there's a version of this movie where this little shit was edited out. Then I'll be happy. American Werewolf in London is horror comedy done right. I'm looking at you, Get Out. I'm even going to push it to say it's the best werewolf flick. Even though the monster technically doesn't look like a werewolf, it's a pretty horrifying sight, which I won't show you because I don't believe in spoilers. Just look at this instead. The transformation scene is still amazing. It picked up an Oscar, but that whole hype overshadowed the fantastic sound design. It's so good it makes the Beast of the Moors howls a great bowel emptier. It makes surround sound pay for itself. What do you get when you put an S at the end of Alien? Well, you get a more badass Ripley. This time though, the little Indians known as the Colonial Marines are sent in to eliminate H.R. Giger's creation, equipped with weapons and also the infamous motion tracker. As this gadget works as a better friend than a rifle, that pulsating rhythm really puts you on edge, even subconsciously giving you a feeling of dread. And then when you hear that beeping sound getting faster, making you realize that those things are getting closer and closer. I love the paradox that something that is meant to help you creeps you out even more. But don't you just love that they made an app for this on your phone? Who said the world wasn't awesome? Jurassic Park can be summed up in one sentence. Who doesn't love something that mixes the wonder and terror of those giant lizards or birds who threw in the towel millions of years ago? But despite the colorful characters, the Rex stole the show, even in the sequels. Well, apart from 3, that roar is equally as cool as it is horrifying. Despite science now saying that the T-Rex maybe didn't roar when it was alive. Well, I guess Hollywood wins this time. Honorable mention to those footsteps as well. John Carpenter once said, and I'm not quoting, "There's 2 kinds of horrors. The one where the evil's out there and the one where the evil's in here. But which one does the haunting go under?" Or maybe it shows Carpenter's lack of diversity. But that's kind of true of the movie's story. We're not sure what to fear is in our leading lady's head or if it roams throughout Hill House. Like the Blair Witch, we never see the threat. And amongst the weird sounds of children and chanting, the sound of that almighty banging is maybe the scariest thing you'll ever hear. Despite sounding so simple, as humans we're automatically prone to fear such low booming sounds. Kind of like how it's hard to accept the sound of my voice. The whole thing is like a Darwinian response, and that's the genius behind it. Including the irony is, we know it's worse when it stops, when it's right outside your door.